So I'm an acoustician and a music composer. I work as a research fellow under fixed-term lecturer in the Department of Informatics and Telecommunication in the University of Athens. And during the last roughly 20 years, I have been composing and releasing music. I'm going to focus on this presentation on these 3 releases. It's a trilogy coming from the same idea. So the main focus here would be to take a closer look to the significance of the musical performance. So the musical performance is rather important, rather than just seeing a score or so forth. This is a quote from Honoré de Balzac, Gabarat, the composer, quote from this book stating the importance of the performance. So music composition, before phonograph, before we had the ability to record and play back the pre-recorded music and listen to it, we needed these instructions. So the composer would write the instructions, as the score, for example, for the performance to be executed, for the piece to be executed by the performance. Nowadays, the composer might as well sign the recorded music that will be able to be played, and not just a score or any other notation not any other weird location. So is it working? I think it's working. So is it on? It's working? Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine, and we can see your presentation, but we can't hear audio if you're playing audio.
No, I'm not playing audio. Something popped out in my screen. Sorry. So today's composer gets to actually hand in the recorded album. That would be CD or any other medium. So listening to music before the ability to, like as I said before, listen to pre-recorded music, the music had to be played here and now for us, which is in front of us, a performer, a musician executing a musical piece, and so forth. So we get this feeling, and we always needed to have the here and now of the work of art, of the music. Nowadays, we are able to hear to pre-recorded music as well. So we get this idea when we listen to pre-recorded music that it was recorded there, somewhere else, not in the same room as we are now, and then. So in a distance, spatial distance, because it's far, and time distance as well, because it's back then and we play it back now. At this point, I would want to just point out an interesting book from Walter Benjamin, a philosopher of 20th century, the beginning of 20th century, in Germany, who wrote a work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. That was very influential text for my work that will follow. I will go deeper into that in a while. So, for example, as we see, like a pianist, for example, here we see Glenn Gould playing the piano. If we see this picture, we kind of expect the result of this gesture. So we have associated this gesture with a sound. Rather than this gesture, an electronic music composer or a performer just twisting a knob doesn't mean anything to us. Maybe it would be volume, cut-off frequency, or whatever. We are not associate what we see with what we hear. Adding to this, this is a sound generator. This is a piano, for example, and when we see this piano on stage, we kind of also understand and know roughly the sound of the piano. We kind of like predict when I'm playing the bass notes, when I'm playing the middle ones, and so forth. We kind of predict roughly the sound of the piano. Not all pianos obviously are the same, but we roughly can understand and predict the sound. If we look at this, which is a stereo pair of speakers, we don't know what we're going to hear. So again, we are not associated, neither from gestural point of view, not in as a physical medium point of view. We don't associate ourselves with a known sound. So in this idea, I composed in 2011 Feeling of Movement. That was an album that was on orchestral work with compositions from physical instruments that played pieces, and then I edited these bits and pieces that they were recording in different spaces. So you get this idea and feeling of moving from one space to another, because you hear a violin, for example, in a large space and then in a smaller space. So you get the idea of reverberation time because you have heard violin again. And this is a known sound, and this gives away the room characteristics of the sound. So the reverberation time, if I may say. I have also done another piece of work in 2011 that was electronic music, and this was a composition done in the same way, the same idea, different reverberation times, but different room acoustics, if I may say, but with electronics, just electronic sounds. This was mainly the idea that you hear the sound either in the same room that you are in or in a different room, because you are not associated with electronic sounds in the same way that you are associated with a violin sound, for example. Electronic sounds are unique, so the timbre is not prior known. And then you cannot distinguish if this is an anechoic sound, an anechoic without an echo, that's an anechoic without an echo electronic sound, or the sound that sounds in the room with a reverberation as well. And adding on all to that, this is the main focus. This is done in 2016. That was called live electronic music, which is basically the same idea, but all this was a box that outputs a stereo signal, musical piece, that would, every time you press play, would be different. So you have the same musical piece, show it here. So you have the same musical piece over and over again, but always with a different playback. It would be always different playback. So you have, it was an algorithmic music composition, and single board computer is inside this box that executes the algorithm. So the algorithm, really quickly, I don't want to bother you with technical details here. It's basically this is the block diagram. We see here pattern 1, 2, 3, and so forth. This is in the time domain, and we see audio channels here from 1 to 5. So at every pattern, every different channel, a sample is being loaded from a sample bank, and then randomly, and then we have, as well as in the same channel, we have the filter as well. Here for example, we have an equalizer with a parameter that will vary itself between two extreme values in random times. Same here about the delay, for example, a reverb, panning, and another reverb. So the values are constantly changing in random times. So I have checked all the extreme values and I'm happy for the sound. So this is how I set the extreme values of these parameters. And this is the block diagram of the piece as the time progresses. So this is the pure data algorithm in case someone wants to check it out. So I'm gonna introduce the last term here, which is utopia. And to summarize everything, Thomas More wrote a book in 1516 that was called Utopia. Utopia is a Greek word that means which is not, and topos, which is place. So not a place. This is basically described by Thomas More as the place that it is now, which is present at this moment, but it's not here. So you have a distance from utopia. You will never reach utopia because it is now, but it's always far from us. It's unreachable. A topos, a place that it's unreachable, it's far from us. So in order to summarize everything, we have the here and now of the work of art, as Walter Benjamin claimed. When we hear the music now in front of us, we have the here and now effect. And when we listen to pre-recorded music, we have the effect of there and then. So the utopia, here and now of the work of art vanishes. So utopia, in terms of utopia now. So the first album, 2011, The Feeling of Movement, was not synchronized utopia because the music sounds there and then. Between this immediate movement in spaces when you hear the musical piece from the pre-recorded physical instruments. 2014, electronic music doing exactly the same as 2011 work, but with electronic sounds, we get a negative utopia. The music is there and then. It was, here and then. So because you get to hear the same musical piece over and over again, you get the idea that it's not being played every time as a unique sound, so you can hear it again and again, but you get if you pay close attention, you get the here of the work of art because you kind of feel that this music is being played in front of you in this room. And finally, 2016, live electronic music. This, I can describe it as a utopia that is being brought closer to us because you get this here and now of the work of art, which is because of the unique and real-time different execution of the same piece. And you are not associated with a musical performance. You don't need to see a musical performance if you hear electronic music. So listening through speakers in your living room, for example, you have this idea and this feeling of the here and now of the work of art, even though the music is pre-recorded and being played with using an algorithm. This is basically my presentation. If I may take questions now and we move to the musical piece afterwards, or we just play the piece and we move to questions afterwards. It's down to you, I don't know.
I recommend that we play the piece first and then have questions.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I play the piece and then we have questions?
That's what I recommend, yes, please.
Excellent. So we're going to hear the first piece. It's 4 pieces, and we're going to hear the first piece twice. So you get these different variations of the same piece, so you can compare. Let's hear the first piece then.
Spyros, we're not actually hearing anything.
Excuse me, you're not hearing anything.
Yeah, it's only coming through your mic. Have you shared your computer audio? You turned off the screen sharing, so...
Okay, I turned off the screen sharing. So I will continue sharing the screen, and then hold on just 1 second.
Yeah, make sure you have your audio turned on.
Sure. Okay, excellent. So this was the first piece, and I will play it again in a different variation. That was it then. I don't know if you hear me.
Yeah. Thank you. Was that the pieces? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We have just 3 minutes, so we can probably take one question. And
I'm
Stephen
sorry.
raised his hand first. No, that's all right. And Stephen raised his hand first. So Stephen.
Thinking back to Benjamin and Adorno, they also noticed that radio was popular.
Unfortunately, I cannot hear properly.
No, it's all right. I'll repeat the question. Don't worry.
Okay.
Radio was popular before records, and so in fact, radio is a there and now, live radio. And of course, nowadays with streaming, we have here and then, and it's famous during COVID that some places like the Metropolitan Opera in New York played films recorded in the space. So that was a here and then. Does that matter to you, or are you interested in the other combinations?
Okay, so the question was, even Benjamin and Adorno made the point that live radio before records was there and now, and that examples like live movies of opera being streamed is an example of here and then. Do you have interest in any of the other combinations, or just the there and now?
In these projects, in this trilogy, I just worked on there and now and here and then. So I see it as you well pointed out, as Adorno as well mentioned things like for the radio as well. But my interest in this work was trying to provoke, because Benjamin did really liked the destruction of ora, as he said, destruction of the here and now. We are in a new era of that we can reproduce pictures, videos, we can do things like that. So bye aura. And I wanted to push the boundaries of pre-recorded music and bringing here now closer to pre-recorded material. That's what I mean. Bringing here and now, bringing back the aura again in pre-recorded material, provoking Walter Benjamin's thought.
Okay, so it's the aura as opposed to the combination that you're aiming for.
Exactly.
Okay, we are out of time, I'm afraid. Please feel free to message Spyros on deck 10 if you have further questions.
Sure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.